Remember when I told you that Jerry Jones, at 120 years old, is so desperate to win a Super Bowl that he's willing to do absolutely anything to get back there and win? Well, the problem with that is not that Jerry doesn't have the resources to do that. It's that Jerry does not know how to build a football team. My main takeaway here is that if you can't manage your emotions, then you can't manage the cap and you can't strategically build a football team. Of course, the CeeDee Lamb deal is ridiculous and is not going to win them a playoff game, much less a Super Bowl. But now he's the second highest paid non-quarterback. And the problem with billionaires who are in their 80s, they have been taught in their personal lives that they can have everything. And the problem with football in particular is that not only is this a meritocracy, everybody gets to spend the same money and have the same exact resources. And so it's not just enough to be pretty. It's not just enough to have a nice logo on the building. If you can't prove to free agents that this is a legitimate operation, nobody wants to be in the playoffs, the first round, and get ousted in the stupidest ways, in the way that the Cowboys have lost in the last few seasons in the playoffs. That is not attractive to people. We all knew that Jerry had no leverage. We all knew that they would absolutely be a 4-win football team without CeeDee Lamb. I don't care what anybody says. The problem when you're as vain and as image conscious as Jerry is the fact that no matter how much you try to ignore the noise and claim you don't care, subconsciously, Jerry is always going to prioritize his relationships with the players, and he's always going to overpay for skill positions that do not translate to wins. I'm not saying that wide receivers aren't important, but to pay CeeDee Lamb $100 million guaranteed with almost zero wide receiver depth behind him, no running back core, legitimate questions with the defensive line and linebacking core, with Eric Kendricks being your marquee signing of free agency, for him to get on and be defensive in response to fans saying that he should step down and resign, which is a legitimate call out after 30 years of not winning anything, barely being able to scratch a second round playoff berth. And if you want to buy into being a free agent for the Cowboys, or you're a draft pick for the Cowboys, what you know is that it is going to be a completely top heavy roster with the top two guys getting paid generational money. Dak is up for another contract where he's going to likely be the highest paid guy, and I'm going to have to go through this shit again for the next offseason. Oh, is Dak going to get paid 60? He's going to get paid 70. The Cowboys have no backup plan, and they haven't in a decade. Jerry is so unjustified in getting defensive when the fans are calling for him to resign. For him to say that there is no one else that could do a better job as GM than him is absolutely insane. It is asinine. You don't think Howie Roseman could come in there, or Brett Veach could come in there and make a significant difference? You are out of your mind. And the problem is, you can want to get back so bad, but if you don't have the skills, if you don't have the perspective, if you don't have people in your circle who are going to tell you that you're absolutely washed, then you're never going to get back there. And how Jerry has not come to this realization in 30 years tells you that we are going to be back having the same conversation next year. The Cowboys are much worse than they were last year. They don't even have an explosive running back. There's talk now, after bringing in Zeke and Royce Freeman, that they're going to now bring in Dalvin Cook. But we saw what Dalvin Cook looked like with the Jets last season. There was no juice. And the problem is, if you just want to look pretty, pay your QB, pay your wide receiver, get your ass bounced every single first round of the playoffs until the end of time. I'm calling for Jerry to even bring in a consultant with some strategic team building pedigree so that he can find someone that he respects more than himself to give him legitimate advice, because right now it's absolutely embarrassing. As a Cowboys fan, I would be humiliated every single time that they make a move in in addition to what the hell else happened in the offseason, which some people are calling it the worst offseason out of any team in the NFL, considering we talked about, considering all of the things that are supposed to make the Cowboys attractive. They just, hate to say it, but they just have their head stuck up their ass. There's just no other way to put it. The pressure will be on to justify the investment. I understand some people have their offensive line in the 5 to 10 spot in their rankings, but losing Tyron Smith will undoubtedly have an impact on that group, regardless of how injury prone he is. He was a major presence, respected guy in the building. They need continuity on not only at left tackle, but at center. What do I always say in these situations? Emmitt Smith ain't walking through the door. Troy Aikman ain't walking through the door. And I think that the Cowboys are in for a rude awakening after this season. For there to be such loud cries from the fans in a way that I haven't typically seen before to this magnitude, where Jerry feels he needs to respond in such an aggressive way, tells me that the pressure is mounting. Fans are finally getting fed up and understanding that this is really just a senile organization. They are taking on the persona of their owner. And I think folks are going to be surprised by how poorly that they end up playing throughout the entire season. I do not have them winning the division. I think Washington at this point could even give them a run for their money in the 2 spot. I would love to hear what you think in the comments. I'm sure that there's a lot of things people are going to find spicy in these takes, but the truth of the matter is that I am spitting legitimate facts. I don't understand how you could have a different argument, but I would love to see if you do. I'd love to chat about it in the comments. This is something we're going to be talking about in the community throughout the season. And so let's get some respectful conversation going there. And as always, a like and a subscribe helps the channel, support the channel a ton. We want to get our voices out to the rest of the football world and would love for you to be a part of it. So appreciate you stopping by. I will see you next time.